Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, Guy.
Good evening, Rich. I think I started the webinar. We'll try never to do that again. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great, man. Doing great. How was your 4th of July?
It was great. Had family in town. Weather was good. Sister was here, so I hope everybody had a good 4th of July. And thanks for taking the time. We've got a big audience again tonight, well over 100 it looks like. So we're going to talk today about technology for dental sleep. As you have questions, put them in the question box. Rich and I will get to them, or our whole team of dental sleep medicine experts will be answering those as we go. And so anything you want to know, just type in the question box, and we promise to get to it before the night's over. You know, Rich, when I was putting this together, we were talking about, how much has changed in dentistry and dental sleep. And I think when you look at things, even maybe some of these are before our lifetime. I think maybe communication changes such as carrier pigeons maybe was a little bit before our time. But I had my grandmother had a phone like this. Maybe she was just frugal and didn't want to sell it or something. And I had that phone. Did you have that cell phone?
I did, the one that you could knock somebody out with if they tried to steal your wallet or something. Yeah.
It was a weapon and it was a phone. Yeah, so things have changed.
How much was the airtime on that one, Guy? Do you remember, like $50 a minute or something?
Yeah, it was like $150 a minute. It seemed like so. But anyway, things have changed a lot. And I mean, I think we put the latest in here. I've used some slides similar to this in the past, and if you do this webinar in 6 months, we're gonna have to change it again probably because
Sure.
the technology is changing so fast. We're like Star Wars here, Star Trek with the beam communication devices on our arms, and we want to talk about how dentistry's changed and dental sleep's changed, and what we can help your dental sleep practices succeed in dental sleep medicine and the new innovations. I think it's kind of good to look back. I think at times, Rich, we spend a lot of time, going forward and wow, we accomplished the next thing, and then we think, well, gosh, that wasn't that much. We can almost beat ourselves up over we're not getting there fast enough. But when I look back, you and I both graduated dental school the same year, right? 1989. You graduated the same year as I did. I mean, 30 years ago. And everything wasn't like this here. I don't think we were the bottom right-hand corner. We weren't quite still there. We didn't wear gloves in dental school. We didn't have to at first. And we were using amalgam like that. Remember that rubber base? That stuff was.
You just think about rubber base, Guy, and the scans that we're doing now. Just think about how far that's come.
Incredible. And it doesn't ruin your nice tie either, because the rubber base, when it got on it. Today we're going to talk about the innovations in dental sleep, and I'm excited about this, Rich, because we put a little bit more effort into this because it was a lot of new material. We wanted to talk about the latest things from scanning, the milled devices, the CBCT, and matrix systems, and so we'll talk about all those and systems to make you more productive in your dental sleep practice. So just to prove that we did go to dental school and that we have been doing this long, there's Rich. I asked Rich to find a picture. I must have kept mine in a safer place than yours apparently, but we pulled up our old pictures from dental school to show, in the last 30 years we've changed a lot, not only in our appearance, but I think what I'm most proud of is in our knowledge. Over 2/3, pushing 2/3 of our dental careers, you and I both, Rich, has been in, at least in some part, yours probably more intensely for the last 2/3 of your career in dental sleep.
And that's all we do now. When we look at this, I remember, Guy, when I told people 20 years ago I was going to sell my dental practice and just do dental sleep, and people went, "You're going to do what? Like, are you crazy?" And, now I got a 20-year head start on them because everybody's, starting to get into this. So we really think the curve's just starting up, when you think about this. And every time we do one of these webinars, we see a lot of new names on there. And we know that you guys are out there and you're just kind of thinking about this and getting into it. And some of you are doing a little bit and some of you are doing a lot. And we want to help you do more.
Well, absolutely. And we don't know everything, but we certainly know a lot. We've done thousands of devices and between us, and we hope to share some of that knowledge with you through this webinar and our other webinars and courses throughout the country. Just a little housekeeping, and we'll get right into it. You can get CE for this. It'll come into your email within the next 72 hours. If you can't find it in the next 72 hours, look in your junk folder. It'll likely be there if you don't immediately see it. If not, then certainly feel free to contact us. I had an HR company come in today, and she was intrigued about what do you do in here. She sees all of our employees. We got pushing a few dozen employees in our building, and she said, "What is it you do here?" And simply put, I try to give her what we call an elevator speech, and we help dentists who want to succeed in dental sleep medicine in their offices. In other words, dentists who want to provide dental sleep services in their offices, we provide all the training, support, coaching, and software in order for them to do that more easily and productively, and not make a lot of the mistakes that we made along the way. If you want to know more about what we do along the way, or even if you just have a question that's not answered here tonight, just type in consultation or consult, and one of our dental sleep medicine experts will get on the line with you, set up a time, and answer your questions, tell you how we can help you get through the challenges of dental sleep with a whole lot less headache than recreating the wheel.
Teaching a few courses too, aren't we, Guy? Yeah, we update those all the time. We'll have some more in the fall. Guy does most of those. If you've never heard Guy teach, you're in for a treat there. He's great at especially motivating your team and that. So we would encourage you to take your team as well, because most patients are asking questions to your team members that you don't know about. And a lot of them are dealing with snoring and sleep and things like that. So I hope you can work one of those into your schedule. You can save some money by doing that. If you do it tonight, you type course now, and then somebody will reach out to you and talk to you about, which one to get you signed up for.
Yeah, we'll be adding several more, at least 3 or 4 more that are almost in stone. So check back with us. It's a day-and-a-half course, or almost 2 full days. I think it's 13 or 14 hours of CE. You get a dental device, and you get a sleep test, and it's for you and a team member. It's normally $9.95, and you get $200 off if you type in the course. So as Rich has said before, my goodness, if you want a dental device and a sleep test, there's no better place to come to get that.
Cheapest way to do it in the entire country.
You have our personal guarantee that you're going to enjoy the course, and it's going to be very informative. So look at where we're doing those, and we're putting our billing department, 4-pillar billing. Lisa, who has been doing billing for well over 20 years, medical billing that is going to be heading our course here in Bradenton, Florida at the Bradenton Yacht Club. Nice facility, not a bad place to be on a Saturday, October 5th. If you want to learn more about billing, and that's one of the biggest challenges that a lot of dentists have, it's $4.95 for the dentist and $2.95 for additional team members. Type in billing, and you can save $50 on that while you're on the webinar tonight. If you want more information about it, certainly feel free to reach out to us. For those of you who are DS3 members, it's the Saturday after our DS3 member study club. So you can do both of them at the same time while you're here. So that's why we timed it during that time. And our symposium, man, it's hard to believe it's already July, and we did that in February. Shout out to Jason Tierney, our COO, who's the master behind this really wonderful meeting. He's already got a great list of speakers for next year in Clearwater, Florida, February. It's around Valentine's Day, February 14th and 15th, it looks like, on Clearwater Beach. The rooms, what are they, Rich? They're like $269 a night, which is really inexpensive for here, and the course is very reasonable too. And
it's going to sell out again. We're trying to keep it from getting too big, and so we're limiting the number of people when we do that. We don't, it changes complexion if you get a little bit too big, and we don't like that. We like the little bit smaller, but still a good sized meeting. And
yeah,
I appreciate putting me next to Randy Curran there, Guy. I look like I have a little more hair when you put me next to him.
Well, we've got great people. I mean, some of our Panky people. We got Steve Carsonson, John Rimmers, Mark Murphy. I mean, these are great names in dental sleep. Aaron Elliott, a lot of you know, and then Jameson Spencer is one of the best speakers on TMD. And then it's just going to be a fantastic, real practical course. We have had nothing but positive reviews of the last 3 years that we've been doing this. So, and then next month, you and I get off, Rich. I think I might be taking a few days off then. So Jason and Mark Fowler are going to be talking about marketing steps. Mark does my marketing, my digital marketing for my practice. He's just a wealth of knowledge, and yours too. And Jason, of course, is phenomenal at marketing, and it will be well worthwhile. If I can't actually attend, I'm going to make sure I get watch the recording later, because I'm confident I will even learn something on that. All right, so enough with the introductions and catching up on everything. I think we're going to talk about intraoral scanners first, and we put this first because it's where we start. If we're going to go with the digital workflow, we're going to get with the program and get rid of the rubber base and amalgam and all the things you saw on those slides. I think intraoral cameras is a great place to start, because without a good impressions, without good images of our cases, everything else goes south after that. And Rich, how long have you had an intraoral camera?
I'm going to say maybe 7 years now. We've been doing scans, six, 7 years, somewhere in there.
Wow. So you were way ahead of me on this. I know you talked about how wonderful it was. I think you originally were in an office where you were sharing space and they had one. And then when you moved out, you're like, I've got to have a scanner. You kind of got hooked on it. Is that what happened?
That's exactly what happened. You know, I'm not quite as cheap as Guy, but I'm cheap also. And I had to be in an office where, somebody else bought one and I got to use it. But, we've used a lot of different ones, over the years and stuff like that. And, as we evaluated it, Guy, we kind of looked at, okay, how much does it cost to take PVS impressions? And then how much does the scanner cost? And then what does it cost to print the models and stuff like that? And I think we figured out, and we were doing about 20 devices a month. It was a cost effective, at about that point. And that was a few years ago. It's probably come down a little bit now from that, because the cost of scanners is going down a little bit and the PVS material isn't going down, the price. So I think it's going to get easier and it's going to get better. And at some point, you're going to be left out. You're going to be one of the old guys at some point if you're not doing this.
Absolutely. We've had our scanner for maybe 9 months now, and I did a lot of research, looked at a lot of different ones. The one I chose to go with, partly because it was the one you were using, I certainly put it high on the list, but for just the exact reason you said. I felt it was one of the most economical ones. There was no monthly fees or yearly fees to upkeep it, and at the volume that we're doing only full arch scans, because that's all we do is dental sleep. And when you look at the cost of the impression material on the trays at our volume, even if you took a normal loan, 3-year loan on this thing, I was actually saving money each year in what I was putting in with impression materials. Now, some of the other ones, I think they do a great job, very possibly, but if they have that annual fee of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, it kind of makes that balance not work out as well. That was one of the key points, the reason we went with the Carestream 3600. I just thought it did a great job and it was really easy to use. I am not an expert in using this thing in my office. I've done maybe a handful of the scans, but we have Elena who in our office who does most of them. She has gone to Europe for 2 weeks because that's where she's from. We have a new team member. It's only been with us about 3 months, and we just spent about 2 weeks training her, and now she's doing them. And what I think one of the things when I look at the advantages to scans in general, I don't think you could teach an assistant how to take good impressions in 2 weeks' time. I don't
think you can do it in 20 years, Guy.
Right.
But go on. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's doing this now, and she wasn't even in the dental field. She didn't even know what a molar was 3 months ago, and now she's doing these scans in her office and saving us time. And once you understand technology, she's younger, so she's not worried about technology. She just picked it up like there was no tomorrow. And I've got some things listed here as what I think that it helps in our office. I'm going to emphasize a few of them, Rich, and you tell me which ones I've left out that maybe mean a lot to you. To me, the most important is the fit. We don't have to take impressions again. You think you get a good impression, there's a distortion. The lab sees it, sometimes they don't. Our deliveries are much quicker now. because we have accurate images of the arches. The second thing is something you taught me, is the workflow. Now when a patient comes in for a consultation and they say, let's go ahead and get going, yeah, we're ready. Maybe we still need a letter of medical necessity. Maybe we need something else, insurance, pre-authorization. But hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and scan you while you're here. With a scanner set up in the room, they just go in and we go ahead and get started. The patient doesn't have to come back, and they're already committed to treatment, as opposed to going home and maybe thinking twice about it. And the third for me is the decrease in expense. It saves us time and it saves us money, as we already said. So this is truly one of the no-brainers to me in all the things we're going to talk about at night, because if you can buy something that saves you time and actual costs out of writing checks for dental supplies each month or each year, why wouldn't you do this and have the latest technology? It's one of the few things that actually 100% pays for itself. So those are the three big ones for me. What about you, Rich? Do you have?
Well, don't underestimate the wow factor, guy. With Carestream, you get the nice, all of them, you get some kind of imaging and computer, and you got to have fast computers and stuff like that to do all of that stuff. But that's go ahead, that next slide. Don't start the video yet, guy. But,
okay.
What we did, guy, up there to the right there where that picture is, we put a 55-inch television screen. And it folds out from the wall and moves over so that the patient can actually see what we're scanning. So a lot of times it helps them get their tongue out of the way, and it helps them do things like that. But you're putting the teeth up there big. I think most of us dentists remember back when we first got intraoral cameras, and you could take a picture of a tooth with a big old nasty ugly amalgam with cracks in it, and the patient goes, oh my gosh, is that my tooth? No, that's a stock photo that we use, but yours looks just like that. No, I'm kidding. But, the wow factor, I think, is big. And I think, Guy, what keeps people from doing this, when you said it's a no-brainer, is I think for older guys especially, and gals, we're a little bit scared of some of that technology. And you don't need to be. This really, most of these people have made it easy. We both went with the Carestream, but there's other good ones out there. We use it a lot. Ashley, it takes her about somewhere between 12 and 15 minutes now to take a bite, to do the scans, and then to scan the bite, as you're going to show here.
Yeah, and there's different ways of doing the bite, but I thought it'd be worthwhile to show how we've been doing it. Some people use the blue mousse and what have you, cut that away and put it in place. The way we've been doing it, and I'm showing me doing it here, but Elena does this many times and is going to be doing it more going forward. We take the bite with the George Gauge Pro Gauge. George Gauge, I think, works a little bit better, and we get the bite where we want it. Now, instead of squirting the blue mousse around like I normally do, we just marry the two arches together with the scanner. And I'm going to show you the video. This is how quick, after you've got the bite determined, the protrusive bite determined with your George Gauge, this is how quick this works. Oh, now I went past the video. Hang on just a second. Here we go. This is, I don't like doing a lot of videos and presentations, but this one's very short. I'm going to turn the volume down on this. You all probably can't hear the volume, so I'm going to turn it down. So we've got the bite there, and all you have to do is just start on we try to do the first molar, and you just go up really slowly, and you can see the blue building, and it marries the two together. Play some cool music while you're doing it, and it's just this quick. All we do is have the George Gauge in place at the protrusive bite that we want, and we just do two bite registrations, one on each side in the first molar region, and it's that quick. I mean, how long that took, but it's certainly not very long. And back to being a little bit frugal, you don't have to. I don't need to use blue mousse, so that saves me money there as well. So and time, and then we can look. You can see Elena over here looking at the image. You have a great opportunity to see, does everything look okay? Did they go bite off to the left or right? Oh, are their midlines off? Well, then we have them go forward and look. And, well, in fact, they are off. I think you use a Sharpie or something for that, don't you? You were telling me about it earlier.
Yeah, we have our own technique. We take the midline on the upper, draw a line on the lower, tooth itself, and then that helps us see it and visualize it and do that. So again, we could probably talk for 20, 30 minutes about proper bite techniques and that kind of stuff. But what we want you to get out of this is how quickly and easily, and then we're actually looking at it. Those of us who can't see that well, you see my trifocals on here, Guy. That's why I have the big 55-inch screen in there, where we can see it. It's just a no-brainer. If you're not doing it, I would kick you in the rear and say, hey, start looking into it and do that. And, type consultation in for us, and we can help steer you in the right direction and help you make those decisions.
Yep. All right, well, moving on to, we've got the impression now, the digital impression. It's hard to get from changing the words that we're used to, right? So we've got the images. We sent it to the lab. One thing I didn't mention too, it saves time. Because boom, the lab has it right then. You don't have to box anything up. It can save as much as 2 or 3 days in shipping time and treatment time to get these devices back quicker. Now we can go to all digital devices, the 3D printed devices and the milled devices. And these are just really exciting for us as clinicians because they're making our lives better as far as delivery time and as far as longevity, but also for patient comfort. I've wore almost every device that's out there. I prefer the digital devices because they're smaller, they hold up better in my mouth. They oftentimes don't retain the environmental stuff that's in your mouth. They don't stain as much. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And this is the one I've been wearing lately from ProSomnus with the ProSomnus up here on the top right. They make 3 different ones. They make the I'm having a
so
CA,
the IA is the top right one. That's that iterative adjustment, and then the bottom right is their CA, which is the continuous adjustment that has that. And then their newest one is the HRPS that we're real excited about. It has a couple. That's the top left. Has a couple of little things that go over. Guy, that our biggest complaint with the HRPS usually is that screw. In the front, if it's catching them right at the corner of their mouth. So. And like you said, they're a little smaller. They don't get all the gunk on them and stuff like that. They're just good all around. When we take a scan, Guy, and we order one of these devices, it just doesn't take very long. Everything just seems to go pretty quickly.
Yeah, the lab bill on these sometimes is a little bit more, and we have some different tiers of service for our patients. And so we try to base that on our time and cost. But what we found is we've been tracking time, that when we deliver milled and printed devices, that we spend less time delivering those. So that offsets a little bit of the cost, if not all the cost in many cases. So ProSomnus, great company, and we like their devices. I'm really excited they have a HRPS now, because down here in Florida, we have a lot of patients who are Medicare, and we really can't do a lot of the other devices on them, as most of you know. So Dynaflex, we've been working with for years. They have milled devices. They have a HRPS and a dorsal. And I really like their dorsal too, as far as a milled device goes. It's, the advantage of these in general, I guess we should mention, is that if you've ever held one of those pucks of was it PMMA? Is that what I'm saying?
Acrylic.
The acrylic. It's much denser, much less permeable to all kinds of bacteria, and it's much stronger. So when it's milled out of that solid piece of really dense acrylic, these things are just going to hold up better, and they can be made smaller because the material's stronger. So you got a thinner, stronger device that is more comfortable to the patient. And Dynaflex, I think one thing we'll mention about them that I like is they, if you don't scan your patients, or you're still using impressions, they scan those impressions for you, and they digitize them. So if you ever have a problem in the future, I had a guy that came in this week who had a HRPS device from about 4 or 5 years ago that was broken. We didn't have to take new scans. We could just call up Dynaflex and say, print the models and either repair this or we're going to make them a new one. So that's a big advantage to their company as well. SomnoMed has a new device coming out. This is kind of exciting. Did you see this at the AEDSM, Rich? Did you get a chance to look at it?
I did. I'm anxious to get one and try it myself. You know, the new Avant. You know what's unique about that guy? They figured out a way to do that and mill it and still have that nice little spongy, soft layer on the inside against your teeth. I'm not sure how they do that, but you know, that's kind of Somna Med's trademark of how well their devices fit, and you know, you still have retention, and it's not an. I think part of the challenge with the milled devices and the scans, guys, they fit too tight when you make an all acrylic one. There's a little bit of a learning curve there. Mm-hmm. So we think that this will ease that transition, certainly for some of you, and I'm looking forward to using this one.
Yeah, see, that's a question right now by David that do you find that they're too tight? And that is, there is a learning curve to that. I can tell you, if you're just starting to do this, you should hang in there, because you give the lab feedback. Each scanner's a little different. Each company scanner's a little different. And after you do a half dozen or so and say this was too tight, too loose, and then it gets better. So they kind of learn what your tolerances for that are. And so it does improve, because at first we did have to adjust them more, but now we have to hard to touch them at all. And this device isn't out until September, I think it is. Steve is mentioning up here, which is true. It's going to be available in September. And I think the advantage to it is going to overcome that hurdle, because you've got the milled device, but then you've got the SomnoMed. I've always had one of the nicest flex materials. It holds up well. It's comfortable. It doesn't stain. Patients like it. So I believe it will help. I believe it will help with the challenges of too tight of devices. It's kind of a unique design. They thought outside the box here a little bit on that. I think it's nothing like that I've really seen.
Yeah, I think it's going to make it easier with midline things and things like that. You know, so I think they've overcome some of the challenges with that. And we're looking forward to using it.
Yeah. Now, if you really want to go to a totally digital workflow, then Sirona's the one that's got that figured out. And I know some of our DS3 members really use this a lot. I know Aaron Elliott's a big fan of these devices. Essentially, what OptiSleep has done is they take the digital scan, and then they take the CBCT, and they marry the two images together, and you end up getting a totally digital workflow with no models. It's made from all the digital data. You get a device that's very, very small and thin, as you can see here. That is a milled device, I believe. And I know the people that do a lot of these. I haven't done tons of these myself, but that really, really are big fans of them. So if you're already using the Sirona, you really might want to look into this if you want the totally digital workflow. And then the D-SAD, Rich.
The printed devices. You know, we used to use the Narval guy, and then they quit making them here in the U.S. But, you know, we're making the transition over to these. It really is small. If you've never seen one of these or felt it in your hands, you just can't believe how light it is, and it's flexible, and it moves, and I don't even know what the stuff's made out of. Medical grade polyamide, whatever the heck that is. And I want to take one out in the driveway, guy, and run over it with my truck and see if it actually breaks it. I'm not sure it would. So these are pretty cool devices.
Yeah, and this is my go-to device for someone who I think is going to break everything. And strangely enough, it doesn't look that strong, but this 3D printed device absolutely is one of the strongest things out there. As a matter of fact, the herps that broke this week, the discussion I had with him, well, we can either repair it, possibly we can make a new herps. His insurance will pay for another one now, or we can do the D-SAD. And I highly recommended the D-SAD. As I look back on his chart, he's on his second or third device over the last 13, 14 years, because he keeps breaking them up with time. And I said, this is the device you want to do. It fits great. It's very small. The thing weighs like nothing when you hold it in your hand. I'd say the only drawback with this is that it isn't acrylic, and so if you have to make adjustments, you really can't add to it and so forth. So you got to be a little bit wary if the patient's going to have a lot of dental work done in the immediate future. You may want to steer away. But other than that, this is a fantastic sort of go-to device for bruxers and patients who are going to break everything. So a lot of your labs will make those. The CBCT. This is something that I think as a dentist, dental sleep, it's important. I can't imagine now in dental sleep and dentistry going in and getting a root canal or implant without having a 3D image. I've been using CBCT for several years, probably 2.5 years now. I think when I looked around, Cable Kerr was the company that I felt had the best suited for my needs. They have their products, the iCat, the OP300. I have the OP300. I think I will say a little different than some dentists out there. I don't think you have to have a CBCT to do this. You probably don't have to have any of this stuff to do this. But all these things make you do this better and to a higher level, and they take some of the workflow obstacles away. And I think one of the things to prove what CBCTs do is you can see things that you can't see with your naked eye or with x-rays. Does this root canal look all right on number 2 to you, Rich?
What's a root canal?
That's right. It's been 20 years since you've done any of that. Well, you know,
yeah,
might look okay, but as you can see with the CBCT, the distal buccal filling of the endofill is completely outside of the tooth itself. It's in the, looks like it's in the periodontal ligament. So you know, we can see a lot of things with CBCT that we can't see, and the patients can see it too. CBCT, the patients get a view of their airway, and I liken this somewhat to you mentioned the intraoral photography from cameras. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm having having memory problems tonight for some reason. But the intraoral cameras, when they first came out, you go, wow, look at your tooth. You know, a lot of dentists will use these for, wow, look at your airway. I mean, you know, it doesn't take a airway aficionado to see that this airway doesn't look as good as that airway. And if you show the patient this is what we want, then you can see it down here. Wow, you've got a small airway and you're not even asleep. So it's only going to get smaller when you go to sleep. So a lot of dentists will use it for that. You can get some judgments by looking at what we call the minimal cross-sectional area. So in other words, the narrowest spot on the whole airway, if it's less than 110 millimeters squared, there's evidence to show that those patients are at risk for airway problems. And certainly when it gets down below 52, it's extremely worrisome. The thing I use this mostly for, Rich, is I want a good vision of the nose, and you can see this nose here. You can see all the different layers of the nose, and this patient may say, hey, I breathe fine through my nose, and I think they got a problem. I don't know about you. They got sinus stuff in their sinus. They got a deviated septum, and you want to have a discussion with this patient about success of a dental device, or at least ask them, you know, if they're aware that they have nasal problems. So I guess you might know whose nose that is. It's mine, by the way.
Pretty screwed up.
Yeah. Well, that's a long story. We don't have time for it, but it's pretty. You will see patients with noses that have this kind of problems, and you ask the patient, "How do you breathe through your nose?" I'm fine. They're unaware because they've lived that way so long.
Well, you see a lot of things, Guy, that you wouldn't see otherwise, and I think there's a little bit of a wow factor here as well. I think from a liability standpoint, you do have those read by a radiologist every time you take one, correct?
I do, because it's such a big field. Even though I've become, what I do is when I get them read, I look at them myself, and I've learned a lot. It's been like a course, because each time I look and, oh, I missed that, I missed this. And I feel really confident looking at these, but I still feel it's proper. And it adds value, because you give the patient the radiology report. They go, wow, you went to a radiologist, you worked with my sleep doctor. We've got this fantastic image of my airway, my nose, my teeth, and my TMJ. And so, by the way, one of the questions is, which one of these should you get if you're going to do dental sleep? To me, the biggest thing is you want to see the nose, the whole oral airway down to epiglottis, and the TMJ, all in one image if possible. And that way we can see all the areas that matter to us. And one of the things the next slide is going to show you is a TMJ image. You know, this patient, we very well might make him a dental device. They've got some problems with their joint. We still want to do an exam and document what's going on, but at least we have better documentation of pre-existing TMJ issues, so that we can medically, legally note that and discuss it with the patient to make sure that they're making an informed decision about their treatment. And I think that's really where it comes in. We've seen adenoids that we didn't know were there. We've seen cysts in the sinuses. We've found some other things that were a little more concerning, like carotid artery stenosis, things like that, that we hope to find nothing on these, like most radiographic images. But when we find things, it's worthwhile to note, and it gives us a good baseline. And that's what I use mine primarily for. And I have no hesitation using it, because one of my biggest concerns when I first got into this, well, gosh, we don't want to, is this worth all the radiation? And the amount of exposure for a patient who is, with the doses that I use in my office, we use low dose in general, is about 32 microsieverts is what we measure that in. And that is only, 12 more, so 20 is a digital Panorex. Compared to, I used to do full mouth series of film all day long on my patients, every 3 to 5 years, depending on their dental condition. And that's, well over into the several hundreds with film and the 35 or so with digital. So you don't need to worry about that with it. So the indications for CBCT, screening the patients to show them their airway and talk to them about being at risk. Looking at patient candidacy to see if they have any other issues that they may need to address in addition or instead of dental sleep therapy. Getting a baseline for the TMJ nasal airway. I don't think you can tell much about jaw position from these things yet, but maybe in the future, wouldn't that be cool if you could somehow digitally manipulate these and it would be able to tell us things. So is that you in the middle there, Rich? Kind of looks like you on.
Kind of. That guy's got more hair than me. Hey, one question, Guy, about the CBCTs. You said you find a lot of things. Have you ever found any like lost relatives or?
No, not that I know of. So
all right, let's talk about sleep testing now. Yeah, that looks like fun, doesn't it? Taping all that stuff on. I love that guy in the middle. Guy, that look on his face. He's like, really? You know, now you expect me to sleep? We have people complain about the little pulse oximeter now or something like that. And when they do, we show them that picture and we go, well, it could be worse, Yeah,
and gosh, if we were doing this 10 years ago, we could say this is the biggest change in dental sleep that there is, because now we have home sleep testing, or was it 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I guess it would be, because that you don't have to go to sleep lab anymore. It's amazing. Well, that's kind of past news now, but what's gotten better are the testing devices themselves, and they're getting better and better. And I'm confident in the next few years we're going to even be having more exciting news on this. One of the things, a WatchPat that we use, they have the newest WatchPat out, the WatchPat 300. It's one of the few devices that actually measures sleep staging, and that's one of the big pushbacks you might get from physicians. Well, you're measuring airway, but you're not measuring sleep staging as you are in a PSG. And WatchPat does that. And the newest one downloads this information in about 15 to 20 seconds. So usually it takes, hook the thing up and walk away, go do something else for 2 or 3 minutes. And now they even have basically a one-time use of a disposable one, which is really cool. So if you don't want the capital expenditure to buy the units for each one of your patients, you can just buy these one-time uses or the patients to use, and it's the same technology, same sensors. You're going to get the same quality of reads and data from them, but not having the capital expenditure of buying the WatchPat unit itself. So I think that's pretty fun.
that ends up being about $100 a test, Guy. And even if you had your patients pay for that, if you were using this to help titrate your dental device, for example, you could either build that into the cost of what you want to do. The cost of our device includes 2 titration sleep studies. Again, there's a lot of moving parts with dental sleep. How do you do that? How do you do that? Incorporate that. What does the sleep doc want or not want, or the primary care doc or something like that? But you don't have to go out and spend several $1,000s on a device. You can use them this way and still incorporate it into the cost. Or you can just say, if we want to do that, the cost is $150 or whatever, and you're covered for all of that stuff. So it's a great way to do it.
Yep. And then one of the newer home sleep testing machines I've been using in my office, I think has some unique features enough to talk about it during this webinar. One is the cost. It's at a price point less than $1,500 for the unit itself, and it's about $10 to use it for one night. 12 or 14 if you want, 15 we'll call it, if you want to use it for 3 nights in a row for titration. So cost-wise, it's less expensive, but it's the only other device I know of that gives you some EEG information and sleep staging, and certainly to know if the patient's asleep or not, which is important because one of the pushbacks from HSTs are patient can be laying there, for 3 hours not asleep, and we're going to dilute the AHI with this. And so having sleep staging is really a key thing, and it's very non-cumbersome. You can see the leads here that you put on. It's I wore it myself. We've been using it with our patients for 6 months or so now, and due to the inexpensive capital cost, inexpensive per use ability to use it for 3 or 4 nights in a row, without 3 nights in a row, I should say. We've not used it before, for about $15, and having the EEG signals on it, and it's pretty easy software to understand too. I think it's warrants us talking about today during this conversation. It's something that we're excited about using in our office, and we use it a lot for titration of our devices.
Yeah, I haven't used that one, Guy. I think that's something I'm going to get, just looking at that and doing it. We do use some of the high-res pulse oximeters, though, known, and it's been around for a long time. They have some great technology that they use with theirs that really seems to make a difference with a more accurate reading when you have patients who have low perfusion. So remember, when we put a pulse oximeter, we're using red light and infrared light, and we're looking at how all of this stuff works to measure how much oxygen is in your blood, but your heart's got to be beating. And some of our patients, especially those down in Florida, Guy, at certain times of the year, you have to wonder how much their heart is beating, so they have low perfusion. So the technology in there supposedly is a little bit better when you're doing that.
Yeah, and I think they kind of set the standard for pulse oximeters. A lot of the other companies who make high resolution pulse oximeters use use actually their sensors, and then maybe have their own reading devices. So I have the Nonin. We use it a lot. We're very pleased with it. I really feel for titrating devices, it's just these pulse oximeters that give you really good information and can be an interim step between your diagnosis and some sort of follow-up sleep test. And sometimes maybe all we need to do, but that's more up to the physician than me most times. But it's just so much easier to give them one of these. It costs very little. The patient's not put out by putting this thing on their wrist to look at. Patient safety has a couple of neat ones that I'm really excited about as well. One is the Eversleep, and that's more of a patient take-home device, and it has an app you can use with it, and it's meant more for patient distribution, and you can have your patients purchase these, and we can see how they're doing with their sleep device. I've used more. I know you're using the SleepSat here. I just think the information you can see on the screen that it gives you here is just really incredible. I read all about what all this information means when I first started using this about a year ago. I still remember most of it, but you don't have to. It's a fun thing because all you gotta do is, what do you want? Green good, red bad, right?
Yeah, we could spend an hour, Guy, easily on those 4 bar graphs right there. There's no doubt about that. Maybe that's a good idea. We'll do that someday. Yeah.
I understood exactly and I understand for the most part still what each one is. But when I train a new team member on this, let's just look. We want it to be in the green. You look at these graphs, and if it's in the green, we're doing pretty well.
Green,
so we've
good.
got green good, red not so much. And so the cool thing about this, you can give this to a patient for 3 or 4 nights. We usually do 3 nights. Have the patient take it home. Their snoring's decreased. They're feeling great. They put this on. It's simple. There's not a whole bunch of things to hook on. It's very inexpensive. I don't know the exact cost, but I think it's, it costs us essentially nothing to hand it to them other than our time. And they wear it where we think they're doing well. Then they move the device a little more forward the next night. They move it maybe a whole lot more forward the 3rd night. And then they back up the device, and we can look at this data. And if it's not where we want to be, well, we can hand it to them again because it costs us very little, and the patient doesn't mind doing it. So I think this has really made us be able to provide dental sleep medicine more effectively, efficiently, and economical for our patients because we don't have as much cost built into the titration. So I see some other questions coming in. we'll get to those absolutely as we go through it. I know our team's answering them. And again, if anybody wants a course discount, make sure you type in the course discount. And if you want to know more about what we do, certainly type in consult or consultation. We can answer your questions. The Matrix Plus, this is really exciting. Our good friend John Rimmers, my buddy from Kentucky and teaches with me down at the Pankey, and kind of a icon in sleep for sure, has developed this Matrix Plus system, which essentially, I think, is that the only slide I have? No, there's a slide here. Essentially, you have a device, if you're not familiar with this, that manipulates the jaw. You make some trays that allow the jaw to slide back and forth, and you can send the patient home with this for 3 nights. The first night, they can get a diagnostic baseline. The second night, it actually moves the jaw forward and backwards, defines the most optimal place for the best airway. And then the third night, it tests the hypothesis of, hey, we're going to make a mandibular advancement device in that position and see how well what the sleep study does. So it's a home sleep test that allows for diagnosis and titration of the device, and then you'll know whether the device will likely work, and if so, what jaw position to start them at. So it's extremely exciting. Just got approved in the U.S. Within, I guess, this year, right, or last 6-8 months. Anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where all this goes, isn't it, Guy? You know, I mean, we've seen it change a lot last 20 years, and I can tell you one thing: it's going to change again.
Yes,
for sure.
It is, and so
it's just a moving target. We don't know, you know, where this stuff is going. We could talk forever just about the sleep testing part, but tonight we're just trying to show you some of the new technology that's out there for what you can do. I know, Guy, with the questions, when we're talking about the pulse oximeters, everybody's got, oh, this one's great, that one's great. You know, I love this one and that. There's a lot of good ones out there. You know,
yeah.
Find something that works good in your hands. We've told you about some of the ones we use, but they're certainly not the only ones out there. I would challenge you, though, Guy, when that slide you had earlier with the 4 bar graphs, I would really challenge you, dentists, when you use these pulse oximeters to learn how to interpret those reports.
Right.
You know, call the manufacturer up, look at some literature, you know, find out, you know, do some homework about what cycling time is, and you know, the D-SAD from baseline, and, you know, all of these, what's the difference between an ODI and an REI, and you know, you need to learn those things and be knowledgeable about them.
Absolutely. I didn't want to gloss over that, but once you learn it, green good, red bad. This is not that new. It's been around for a few years, but we continually get questions about this in our online study club. We have an online study club just for our members, where we actually open up the mics. We converse back and forth. You submit questions, and I'm doing that tomorrow night for our members every other week. And this question comes up probably every 3 or 4 months. How do you monitor compliance? And the short answer is the DentiTrack is approved in the U.S. It's a great device. You embed it in the dental device. There's certain devices that are approved for it. You can see it's about the size of maybe a watch battery or something. It lasts about 5 years, maybe longer. And then I'll back up for one slide here. You put it in this reader, and it tells how many hours a night, what nights they've wore it. Basically monitors compliance. And if you've got patients who are drivers with the DOT, and you got to show compliance, you've got a physician who's a stickler for this sort of stuff, it's a great invention that I'm sure we'll be seeing more of as insurance companies may unfortunately start mandating that we show compliance like we do with CPAP. Inspire.
I will tell you.
Go ahead.
I will tell you, Guy, in Texas now, the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has left it up to the individual states for how they deal with the people with commercial driver's license. And I'll tell you, in Texas, man, they are starting to crack down on them. You know, some of these TxDOT physicians, they're like, no, you're not wearing your CPAP. I'm not giving you your thing. Well, you need to get a dental device, and I need to see that report. So we're probably doing 2 or 3 of these a week now, Guy, where we're downloading those reports and we're giving that information. And I do think that's coming down the pipeline. So you need to be aware of it.
Be aware of it. It's real easy to use. Inspire is the genioglossus stimulator that you're hearing commercials for. It's not widely used yet, but I think we're going to be hearing more about it. Essentially, you put an electrode in the tongue. There's a pacemaker like device that goes on the opposite side of the pacemaker that's programmed to stimulate genioglossus muscle activity during apneic events. And I think the big news I heard about this week is that United Healthcare has approved that in certain areas for payment. That was something I got an email on just a couple of days ago. So I think we'll be hearing more about it. It's quite expensive. They have to really look at the right candidates for this. And I certainly don't think it's going to be across the board, but you should be familiar with it. I'll mention this real quick, and then we're going to move on to some workflow issues. As Rich probably haven't even seen this bed jet, I just wanted to mention that it's probably the best Christmas gift I ever gave my wife and myself. Patients don't sleep well if they're warm. And just go look at this online. It's a sheet that is aerated with a motor that if your patients aren't sleeping well, they have insomnia, you can regulate the temperature in your bed really, really well with this, whether you use the heat, which we know nothing about here in Florida, but the cooling part of it works really well. And I was gone out of town for a week at spring break, and I'm like, I was looking really forward to getting home to my to my bed jet. So look that up. I won't spend any more time on that. Dental sleep management systems. We're going to end with talking about that for a few moments. A lot has changed in this area, and in particular in our company as well. And you can't do this effectively and efficiently without a dental sleep management system, because if you're trying to use Dentrix or PracticeWorks or EagleSoft, they're all great softwares. What are they designed for?
Dentistry. You might as well go use a podiatrist software to do your dental sleep, because it's going to work about as well. And so you really need something to help with all the systems and the tracking of everything, and that's what we do at DS3. We have not only a electronic workflow, we help with how do you use that through education, coaching, support. We have a whole team that will help you understand how to use this workflow in your offices. We talk about the 4 pillars. We got the pillars here, and this is something we've been harping on or emphasizing for quite a few years. If you want to be successful in dental sleep, you have to have a system to screen your patients as who's at risk for airway problems, and if they are, you have to have a system to test them. They get sleep tested, you got to be able to treat them, and then you got to get paid for it. And if you're missing any one of those pillars, you're going to find that you're not successful. So you need a step-by-step approach for this, and that's what we've put together at DS3. From our screener to our ways of helping you sleep test your patients, to helping you with the verbal skills for pre-authorizations and consultations, to how you most efficiently record information during your dental sleep exam, to how you deliver devices and the techniques for recapturing the bite, managing follow-up testing, and the annual and 6-month recalls. So how do we do this? Rich, I know when we first put our system together, over 10 years ago now, I guess it's been, hasn't it? Yeah.
We
was the
had
best decision we ever made, wasn't it?
I think so now. You ask me
all the hours we put
in. No, I'm confident it is now, but we put a lot of effort. But I remember the big decision was, how do we base this? Do we base this on PC or, cloud things are kind of coming, but they really weren't where they are now. And I think one of the best decisions we made was we decided to make our system cloud-based. And I know that scares some people. It's cloud-based. I don't know, that much about it. And you start talking about cloud-based, all the IT stuff, and people's eyes kind of gloss back in their heads. But what it really boils down to is cloud-based is, first of all, the way things are going. And it makes your life easier. You don't have to back up your data. You don't ever have to worry about upgrades. Don't you always hate it when the upgrades come and they upgrade and then everything crashes, and now I got to get a new server, and the network guy's got to come in and fix it. All that goes away with cloud-based. You don't have to worry about losing your data. It's backed up 3 places across the country for you. You can have a person in the reception room using a Android screener and At the same time, your hygienist is putting in data in a PC, and then the front desk is working on their insurance, all on the same chart and all different types of computers, because it's cloud-based. So cloud-based is by far better. I've gotten to where I just don't like anything that's not cloud-based, because it just becomes such a hassle when you switch computers, when you leave town for vacation. I can pull up all my information. So that's what we chose to do back over 10 years ago, and I'm confident it was the best decision. One of the cloud-based applications that will help in today's technology is a way to screen your patients. And if you're using paper forms, yeah, that works, but does that help the patient to be interactive with the process? Our screening tablet, when the patient holds it in their hand, they're answering the questions, it gives them information back. It's kind of speaking to them, and they end up looking at this going, hey, doc, what is this telling me here? A piece of paper doesn't do that in the method that a tablet screener might do.
There's also something about a tablet or a computer guy that when it says, hey, you're at severe risk for sleep disordered breathing, it's like, it
Right.
must be pretty smart. It's a computer, you know? So yeah, we could talk a lot about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, home sleep testing, I can tell you that this is one of the reasons Rich and I started our company. Testing was really difficult at the time, and now we have home sleep testing, but we've taken that to another level where with a click of a button, you can order a home sleep test. We got a really long question there, Rich. We'll have to look at that one in a second. With a click of a button, it sends the patient's data to a home sleep testing company. That home sleep testing company mails the patient a piece of equipment that they wear for 1 or 2 nights. The patient mails it back. The physicians read it. The board certified sleep physicians give us a diagnosis and prescription. And then we can come in and treat the patient, because all that information goes right back into DS3. So you click a button, patient does everything at home, all that data comes right back in. So the workflow goes from this, elongated form filling, calling, and back and forth to a click of a few buttons through the systems that we have with DS3. And one thing you can really see, I think, I don't know how I practiced before we had this. If you have a sleep test and you have a baseline, and this patient's got pretty severe apnea, and let's say we use one of those high-resolution pulse oximeters or the Zmachine that I showed you earlier. We tested them at 3 positions. Do I want to have 6, 8, 10 pages of reports in front of me? Instead, all this data can come right into DS3 to where I can look and make a clinical decision very quickly and easily, because I can see the baselines here. And wow, that last night they were in a lot better position.
Yeah, it's just a no-brainer, Guy. When you look at this, of course, that's self-serving for us because we designed that system and we own most of that company. But it's still true. That doesn't change the fact that you don't have a whole lot of choices out there when it comes to this. I would encourage you to do your homework and look at all of them. I am 100% confident that you end up right back, with us when you do that. And I would challenge you to look into this. I just don't believe you can do a very good job of this unless you're managing it, with some type of software or system. And when it comes to notes, Guy, we produced yesterday in my practice, we produced 379 progress notes in one day.
Wow.
In my practice, 379. Wow. I know because I had them all signed, the day before. And when I came in, there were 379 new ones at the end of the day. So go ahead.
Yeah, how many letters have you written? I thought you were telling a fib, or not a fig, but maybe a fishing story. When we looked at that, I forgot what the number was, but it was 6,000 or something letters you wrote last year. Does that number sound right?
Yeah, and this year, Guy, we're averaging between 600 and we almost hit 1,000 in 1 month.
Wow.
So that's how many letters that my office is producing. And I will tell you that if I did not have this system doing that was generating these letters for me. So in our system, when you click on what we do today, what are you going to do next? It automatically generates a letter that pulls data from other fields. Now we program that, and it's not going to be exactly what you want, but we have the ability for you to create your own templates and make the letters like you want. And then you have to edit very, very little, and then you send them through a digital fax system with just a few clicks. So I think if I had to write those letters out, Guy, and do that, I mean, how long would it take to write? My letters are all pretty short, 3, 4, 5 sentences. But still, you know, to do that would take hundreds of hours, and you know, we're accomplishing that in not much time. And you for those of you who are not doing that, you are completely missing out on the opportunity to market your practice with the physicians, because that is how physicians communicate. They
and
do
you're not
it
doing your
these,
job well.
Yeah,
because you're not just doing it for that. That's doing the proper. It's doing the job well. You need to communicate with them, correct?
Yes, but the benefit to that too is it just starts coming back in more referrals to me, Guy. I did not know that is what was going to happen. I honestly didn't. But the more of those we do, and the more we communicate with the physicians, it's just a better system. I think we're trying to raise that bar to where we have better treatment for the patient, and we have to communicate in order to do that. And it gives us a way to do it.
Right. We have ways of tracking your appointments so that you can see when the patients came, like the guy that came in with the broken herpes. I didn't have to look through 15 pages of progress notes. I went to the tracker. I could see each time we made him a device, all the appointments. It made that process so much better. And medical billing, no one does what we do. With DS3, you document the patient, which you need to do anyway. We make that seamless. You click a button. It submits your information to your third-party biller. They process the claims, take care of everything, communicate back and forth with you, anything that you need to know along the way about the timing of the payment. They should have all the information they need, and then the results come right back into DS3. Before we had this system, there was a ton of paperwork being faxed back and forth, mailed back and forth, and the bottom line is, with insurance, we get paid now, and we do it without near the amount of man hours that we used to do through other systems, because we have systems to put in the data that the insurance billers need, such as sleep study and letters of medical necessity and instant eligibility checks, so that we can see at a glance whether the patients have coverage, and if so, what type and how much coverage that they have. Snoozle is something that I laugh every time I hear Snoozle, because Jason came up with this wonderful name, and it really says what it is. It's Google for dental sleep. We have our own huge library of information that's only available to DS3 members, that lives within DS3, that if you want to know how you apply for Medicare, or what you do when someone's jaw hurts from a dental device, you snoozle it, and there'll be articles, videos, all kinds of help on almost every challenge you can think of. And if it's not in there, you ask us in a support ticket or in a phone call, and we'll answer your question, and then we'll put it in there so that the next person that asks will be in there. So can this pay off? Rich, I think we've been using similar slides to this for a long time. We don't overpromise and underdeliver. We do the opposite. I think these are very conservative figures here to say that you can get $2,500 a case and a $350 lab bill and $200 to pay your third-party insurance person to do all the billing for you. If you use those figures and you do one device a month, you can add almost $20,000 to your bottom line at the end of the year. If you do one a week, which you got to almost try not to even be doing this to do that. I mean, so many people have this problem. You're pushing 6 figures to your practice. So there's nothing you can do in dentistry that can add more revenue while helping more patients than dental sleep. And I know we're a little bit biased, but I can tell you that's true, because I've not had anybody come up to me after making that statement to probably tens of thousands of dental colleagues. No one's going, hey, you can do this or you can do that. It has the most potential of anything that's out there. So I know we already mentioned, if you want to know more about what we do, just type in consultation. Someone will contact you. We're not pushy salespeople. I promise you'll find out that are just there to help you and answer your questions. And when you set up that time, if you have specific questions, it may not even be about what we talked about today. They will help you with today's problems and the future problems. Also, don't forget about next month, the marketing steps with our COO, Jason Tierney, and Mark Fowler from Bullseye Media, who will be helping you with understanding how you get your name out there as a dental sleep dentist in your websites and your branding. I'm sure it'll be very, very beneficial. We always like to give something for free here. Rich, when's our next one of these coming out? I think in August or September, maybe. Comes out every 3 months. We do a digital magazine that's free. So if you haven't subscribed to this, you'll find it to be very valuable. So just go to dentalsleepinsider.com. I think that's
lots of good stuff there. You know, a lot of what we do is we try to help dentists. Everything that we do is very practical. Our symposium is all speakers and topics that are very practical about what you can do and how you can take something back to your practice and implement it in what you do. So, as always, Guy, thank you, and Jason, especially you, for putting that PowerPoint together. You did a great job. You're kind of looking through here with most of the questions. I think we pretty much, the long one that was there, Guy, was Dr. Schlosser saying, it's not so much that we're scared of the technology, we're scared of the regret that we have after we bought it and it doesn't work. So you're absolutely right, Dr. Schlosser, about that. You know, that's one of the hard things about when things don't play well with each other. That is one of the reasons that we chose to do DS3 on a cloud-based system, because it works on everything. I can't tell you, Guy, how many times I've been on vacation or something, and I pull up my schedule on the phone, or I can write a note, or I can do, you know, I can do that stuff. So it works on all of those different platforms. And you just got to do your homework. You know, if you have one type of sensor and you have one type of scanner and you have one type of, you know, this and that and all this other stuff, you know, get somebody who can help you make those decisions. We just want to introduce you to the technology tonight, and hopefully we've given you a little push in the direction toward doing more of this, because that's what we want dentists out there helping more patients and saving more lives.
Absolutely, and remember to get your CE, check your spam if it's not there. Tune in next time. Also, I see we got a few people typed in console. Also, don't forget, if you want to see in-person course, even if those two dates aren't ideal for you or places, you go ahead and type in course and you'll get that $200 discount secured for the rest of the year. I know we're adding at least 3 or 4 more locations in the fall, so you can go ahead and type that in now and secure the discount if you want to utilize that. The in-person courses are really great for the dentist to if you've been doing this a long time, we'll give you a system to make you more efficient. If you're new, we'll introduce you to the system and get you excited about this. But it's really great for the team too. Don't forget you get a free team member with that tuition, and the team will do most of this if you'll let them, and you get to bring them along, and we'll get them excited about doing this as well. So I hope to see you at one of the courses coming up. We think got all the questions. Is there anything that we missed on there,
No,
Rich?
I think we did. You know, one of it was about a home sleep test with the, you know, are we going to miss some of the pulse ox, miss some of the upper airway resistance and stuff like that? And yeah, you do. Nothing's perfect, but when you look at, we used to have to send them to a sleep lab,
right,
and they would test one position because the technician would not wake up the patient. He would not adjust the device, you know, for the patient.
Right.
So, you know, when we look at where we were, are we where we want to be yet? No, we're not. I think some of that stuff, Guy, with the giving it to the patient, letting them take it home and go, hey, just turn that screw until these numbers look better. You know, right. I mean, that may be the future too, you know, when we look at this stuff and we do it. So it's constantly changing, and we're trying to keep our finger on the pulse of all of that stuff. So that we can keep you guys updated. You know, when you get into our fold, you know, with the DS3, that Guy talked about with Snoozle, we have several hundred recorded things on there now. You know, we're doing 2 or 3 of these webinars and online study clubs every single month. We've been doing that for a decade. And, you know, when you look at all of these things, because I think the hard part, Guy, if you're new out there and you're getting started, is you have 1,000 questions.
Well,
when I started this, I didn't have anybody to call. There wasn't anybody out there to call, you know? So, you know, we want to be that person that you called, or that you look into Snoozle, or you do this or that. You know, we're just a resource for trying to raise the bar. You know, we don't have the market share that I feel like we deserve here in the United States.
We as dentists is what you're saying. Yes.
We as dentists and dental devices. You know, other parts of the world, there are some countries in Europe where the dental device has more than 50% of the market share.
Yep.
And in the United States, maybe 5%, probably more like 3 or 4%. But part of that is because we as dentists have not engaged this. You know, Guy, you go back to October of 2017. That's when the American Dental Association said, you as a dentist will screen for sleep disordered breathing in your practice.
Right.
How many dentists today do that? It can't be 5%.
No.
You know, and that's quite a while ago. So if more of us start screening, we'll make more patients aware of the airway issues and how important all of this stuff is. And you know, we're just going to raise the bar. We're going to get people out there sleeping better and oxygenating better, and you know, maybe we'll help with the we talk about the obesity epidemic, Guy. You know, and then we talk about climate change. Do you think it's possible that it's just how heavy we are as Americans? We're throwing the tilt of the axis of the earth off a little bit.
That may be it. I hadn't thought of that theory. Let me give that some. That's a new one. I think it's too late. You're getting tired on us. Right. I see the one last thing I'll mention up here. Someone mentioned, is this the course is good for someone who's been doing it a while that needs needs some tweaking, and I see we've already responded in writing, but I want to say it verbally. It's absolutely the best thing. I can tell you that people who've been doing this for a while leave our courses, I think, in one way with more better utilized information than the new people. The new people, it's, you know, great. They almost have to come back or start using our system after a while to really get going. The people kind of already understand the questions. We answer them and give you the systems to go forward with it. So you'll leave the course with the system needed to not only do this well, but do it efficiently. Because when you mentioned, Rich, that you didn't have anybody to call, I only had one person I could call, and it was you. When I first started doing this, that
explains a lot, Guy.
Yeah, I had one number, and I used it a lot. And I'd call Rich, but I was different because I was running a busy dental practice, and I was trying to figure out how I do what Rich is doing in sleep-only practice in a dental practice, and that's what we put together, is how the workflow, how we can do a crown prep at 8 o'clock, and at 9:15 I can do a consultation for sleep, and at 10:30 I can see the crown, and 11 o'clock we can go in and see someone who's been wearing their device for 3 weeks. There's a workflow that we will absolutely help you with. So I appreciate everybody taking the time tonight. I know it's
thank you, guys.
Got better things to do.
Great turnout for summer, Guy. Usually summer it tails off a little bit, but this was great.
I know there's a lot of things you can be doing for your time. We appreciate your time. If you have any other questions, there's our contact, and I'm confident you'll enjoy Jason and Mark's presentation next month, and I hope to see you at our symposium or at a course or on one of these webinars again in the future. Good night.
Have a good evening, everybody.